Today, we are going to talk about all the characters featured in the Lightracewish banner. These are old characters who are getting significant buffs in the patch Luna 8. Now, it is very important to remember that these characters cannot convert the normal superconduct into stellar conduct on their own. In other words, you must have SANDRONE on your team, or a future character that allows the stellar conduct reaction to be triggered. The pity system for this Lightracewish banner carries over from the Chronicle Wish banners you have pulled on before. However, the rate on and rate off status does not carry over because this system utilizes fate points just like the weapon banner. The way it works is that you must choose one specific character or weapon that you want to get. For example, if you choose Yae Miko, you have 50% chance to get Yae Miko, and 50% chance to get a character other than her, which could be Mizuki, Wriothesley, Cyno, or Qiqi. If your choice is a weapon, let us say you pick Cash Flow Supervision, it means you have 50% chance to get this weapon, and 50% chance to get a different 5 stars weapon from the pool shown on screen. In short, the most worth it character to pull for is Yae Miko, because she will perform incredibly well as a support unit for SANDRONE. But if you ask, do I absolutely need to pull Yae Miko for SANDRONE? The answer is, it depends. If you have plenty of Primogems, then go pull for Yae Miko, especially if you want to clear Stygian Fearless and Dire quickly in the patch Luna 8. But if you lack of Primogems, and you also want to save your pity for future limited character banners, you can safely skip Yae Miko and wait for the new characters from snezhnaya. Some of them will definitely fill the role as dedicated support for the stellar conduct reaction. Before we break down each character, let's talk a bit about stellar conduct. When your team triggers stellar conduct reaction, it creates a small blue star on the field called the pole star field. When your character stands inside this pole star field, they receive buffs such as increased stellar conduct damage, as well with cryo and electro damage bonus. The amount of damage bonus will depend on how much cryo or electro you apply, and the number of stellar conduct reactions triggered. All of this will be tracked by the pole star field and converted into stacks that you can see right above your character's HP bar. More stacks, stronger buffs. For the exact numbers, you can check the table on the screen. Additionally, standing inside the pole star field will unlock certain abilities or buffs for specific characters. Take SANDRONE, for example. If she is inside the pole star field area, some of her cryo attacks will be converted into stellar conduct damage. The same applies to the other characters on the Lightracewish banner. Their true potential will be unlocked, making them much easier and smoother to play. The biggest surprise in this stellar conduct meta is the massive buff given to Qiqi. As we all know, Qiqi used to be a very underwhelming character, where even her 6th constellation felt useless. Before patch Luna 8, Qiqi's elemental skill would summon a ball that heals your active character. This cryo ball lasts for 15 seconds with 30 seconds cooldown, leaving a 15 seconds downtime. On top of that, the skill isn't generating energy particles. This made her energy recharge requirement incredibly high, especially with 80 burst cost. It also increasing the energy requirements of the entire team because you had one character who cost a lot of energy but could not generate any particles. She was basically a support character who needed to be supported by other teammates. Also, her actual supporting capabilities were not even that great. That is why Qiqi was rarely used and far from meta. Now, in patch 6.7 or Luna 8 and beyond, this elemental skill have its cooldown cut in half, from 30 seconds down to just 15 seconds. Not only that, now her cryo ball will actively perform cryo attacks, increasing a bit of your team's cryo application and generating energy particles. Furthermore, if stellar conduct reaction is triggered, she will give 50% stellar conduct damage bonus to the entire team, and her skill damage will also deal stellar conduct damage. For her burst, before Luna 8, it only dealt standard cryo damage while healing the team. But from patch Luna 8, Qiqi's burst will also deal stellar conduct damage, so she will now function as a highly efficient off-field healer with shorter cooldown. valuable stellar conduct buffer, and help dealing additional damage. Even her damage are not insanely high. For artifacts, you can run 4 pieces Tenacity of the Millilith to give your team 20% attack buff for 3 seconds every time her elemental skill hit an enemy. This effect still triggers even Qiqi is off-field. She can also use 4 pieces Instructor to provide 120 elemental mastery to the team. Qiqi need triggers Elemental Reaction to activate Instructor's effect. Another option is 4 pieces Noblesse Oblige for 20% attack buff, but since Noblesse only triggers when the wielder use Elemental Burst, you will need extra effort to farming and high energy recharge artifact substats. For artifact main stats, use attack % sands, attack % goblet, and for the circlet you have 3 options. Use attack circlet if you want higher healing and personal damage. Use critical rate circlet if you are running the Favonius sword, since Favonius requires critical hits to activate its passive. Or you can use healing bonus circlet if you want big heal amount. If you are running 4 pieces Noblesse and feel your energy recharge isn't enough, you can switch her sands to energy recharge, then aim for attack in the artifact substats. Or pair her with attack buffer unit like Nicole, who provides an attack buff to the entire team. We can't use Bennett because he only buffs the on-field character. As for Qiqi's constellations, they are quite average. If you get them, great! If not, it's okay. There is no need to purposely chase them. The only one that provides significant buff is her C6, which grants a flat damage bonus scaling with Qiqi's total attack. For her best weapon, you can use Skyward Blade because it has high base attack, which boosts her healing, damage, and the buff from her C6. At the same time, it provides good amount of energy recharge, letting her spam burst consistently. However, running Skyward Blade on Qiqi is usually only optimal if she is already at C6 to maximize that specific buff. Before C6, you are better giving her Favonius Sword R5 and aiming for at least 30% critical rate to trigger the extra energy particles effect. Another great option is Freedom Sworn, which provides 20% attack buff to the entire team as long as Qiqi triggers Elemental Reaction. Aside from these 3, you can use any weapon with a high base attack or high energy recharge. Higher attack means more healing, and higher energy recharge means more consistent burst. For Yae Miko, the main thing to remember is that you need to use her skill 3 times to deploy all of her totems. These totems will attack enemies for 14 seconds. However, once we enter patch Luna 8, these totems' duration will increase to 24 seconds, which is exceptionally long. It is also important to know, when Yae is paired with characters whose can trigger Stellar Conduct, every 3 hits from her totems will unleash extra Stellar Conduct damage in the next hit. For her burst, you had to deploy all 3 totems before bursting. If you used your burst without any totems on the field, it would only deal 1 small instance of damage. But by setting up 3 totems, pressing your burst would trigger extra explosions. After that, the totems would disappear. In patch Luna 8 and beyond, Yae Miko's burst will no longer destroy or remove her totems from the field. The extra explosions is still triggered, but the totems stay on the field, attacking as usual. This drastically reduces Yae Miko's on-field time, making her much more practical than Fischl, whose skill duration is only 10 seconds or 12 seconds at C6. Once Fischl's skill ends, it goes on a 15 seconds cooldown, which can reduce your team's electro application. Because of this, Yae Miko completely outperformed Fischl in the Stellar Conduct meta. For her best artifact set, go with 4 pieces Disenchantment in Deep Shadow. If you already have 4 pieces Gilded Dreams with excellent stats, you can skip farming the new set. The damage difference is not that huge. As for Golden Troop, it does increase her elemental skill damage by 70%, but that 70% boost does not apply to Stellar Conduct damage. It only increases her raw electro damage. Not a bad choice. For main stats, use attack % sands, attack % goblet, and critical circlet. You also have the flexibility to run Elemental Mastery Sands, Elemental Mastery Goblet, or even both. For substats, prioritize critical, attack, and Elemental Mastery. You can completely ignore energy recharge unless you just want to see her burst animation. Remember, Electro damage bonus does not boost stellar conduct damage, so do not use Electro Goblet. For notes, Elemental Mastery main stat becomes much more valuable if you pair her with a team-wide attack buffer like Nicole. If you do not have an attack buffer on the team, stick with attack percent main stats. Her first constellation provides energy restoration after casting burst. Additionally, C1 Yae Miko gains a new effect. After Yae Miko triggers a superconduct or stellar conduct reaction, or deals stellar conduct damage, nearby party members will gain a 50% electro damage and stellar conduct damage bonus for 10 seconds. Triggering these reactions again will refresh the duration of the damage bonuses. In other words, this C1 is a must-have if you want Yae Miko to act as a strong electro sub-DPS and a powerful buffer in stellar conduct team. Her C2 grants 200 Elemental Mastery buff to Yae Miko and the active character, which is nice. Aside from C1, her C6 offers a massive upgrade. It keeps the original effect where her totems ignore 60% defense and adds a new effect. The critical damage of Yae Miko's stellar conduct damage is increased by 200%. Even when played entirely off-field, a C6 Yae Miko can deal damage that equals or even surpasses your main on-field unit. Her signature weapon also receives adjustments for stellar conduct. Before the buff, her elemental skill could get up to a 48% damage bonus, while her electro burst, normal attacks, and charged attacks received 12% after using her skill 3 times. In Luna 8 and onward, this signature weapon will also grant 12% stellar conduct damage bonus every time you press her skill, stacking up to 3 times for a total of 36% stellar conduct damage. While this sounds amazing, remember that this stellar conduct bonus only applies to the weapon holder. Therefore, your main priority should be securing her C1 first. After that, you can choose whether to go for C2 or her signature weapon. You can obtain her C1 from the free Constellation event. Cyno's regular normal and charged attacks deal basic physical damage. To deal electro damage, you must enter his burst mode first. Once active, all his claw strikes deal electro damage, and when the eye indicator appears on screen, you press his elemental skill to deals big damage. His gameplay is that simple. However, Cyno's main drawback is his 80 burst cost, which forces you to run him alongside with a second electro character as a battery. Another flaw is that if you swap out Cyno while he is in his ultimate mode, his burst will immediately end, reverting his attacks back to physical and causing his damage output to drop significantly. In patch Luna 8 and beyond, after you press his elemental skill, Cyno will be able to enter mini burst state for 6 seconds. Naturally, during this state, all of Cyno's attacks are converted to electro. Furthermore, if you press his skill when the eye indicator appears, his attack will deal stellar conduct damage. This buff heavily reduces Cyno's reliance on an electro battery while boosting his overall damage output. To activate this buff, you must bring SANDRONE or a future character capable of converting reactions into stellar conduct. For his artifacts, the recommendations are the same as Yae Miko. Your best option is a 4 pieces Disenchantment in Deep Shadow. If you already have 4 pieces Gilded Dreams with great stats, just use it. Use attack percent Sands, attack percent Goblet, and critical circlet. Running an attack main stats is highly effective if you pair him with a weapon that has a high base attack of 674, such as the primordial Jade-Winged Spear. If your weapon has lower base attack, you have the flexibility to run an Elemental Mastery Sands or Goblet. A special note for those running Cyno with his signature weapon: you absolutely must use EM Sands, EM Goblet, and Critical Circlet. Unfortunately, Cyno's weapon did not receive buff like Yae Miko's did, so its effect remains the same as its initial release. That is not an issue because his signature weapon was already incredible from the start. For constellations, Cyno's C1 receives a buff that grants him an additional 200 Elemental Mastery. His other constellations remain largely unchanged, mostly just adding the phrase stellar conduct to the types of damage or reactions he can trigger. Prioritize getting his signature weapon before chasing constellations, unless your Cyno is already at C5, in which case it is worth pulling for that final C6 upgrade. When Wriothesley activates his elemental skill, his normal attack damage is multiplied by 1.7, coming from his talent skill, which gives a 170% modifier. Keep in mind that this only applies to his normal attacks. His charged attacks do not get this bonus. Also notice that every time his normal attack hits an enemy, it consumes a bit of Wriothesley's HP, draining it down to a 60% threshold. Once his HP hits 60% or lower, his normal attacks lose that 1.7 multiplier bonus. At that moment, a red aura will appear around him, signaling you to perform a charged attack, which will instantly heal him. The catch is, at C0, this special red charged attack can only be done once every 5 seconds, which feels too long during combat, while this red charged attack gains 50% damage bonus. So, at C0, this charged attack is mostly used for self-healing rather than dealing massive damage. This is a bad habit of developer who's place a bad mechanic at C0 and sell you the solution at C1. If your Wriothesley is at C1, you can just spam his normal attacks, and by the 5th hit, the red aura will instantly light up, allowing you to execute a special charged attack. You can repeat this loop every 2.5 seconds, compared to the 5-second interval at C0. Furthermore, the damage bonus for this red charged attack is bumped up to 200%, compared to just 50% at C0. Once patch Luna 8 arrives, when Wriothesley stands inside the Polestar field generated by a stellar conduct reaction, his skill mode changes, so that his 3rd and 5th normal attacks will deal stellar conduct damage. When his HP is at 60% or lower, his special red healing charged attack will also be treated as stellar conduct damage and can be triggered every 2 seconds instead of 5 seconds. On top of that, Wriothesley will deal 30% increased stellar conduct damage. This completely refreshed Wriothesley's playstyle, making his C0 performance is highly viable. His optimal artifact set is 4 pieces Disenchantment in Deep Shadow, though you can stick with Marechaussee Hunter if you already have great stats, since the performance gap isn't that much. Use attack % Sands, attack % Goblet, and critical circlet. Avoid Cryo Goblet because we are aiming to play Wriothesley in Stellar Conduct team. You can swap either your Sands or Goblet to Elemental Mastery main stat, but you need an attack buffer like Nicole or Bennett on your team. For constellations, your priority should be securing constellations before his weapon. You can aim for C1 or C2 and stop, then grab his signature weapon, or push straight to C6 where the power spike is massive. Wriothesley's signature weapon also gets an upgrade in Luna 8, granting the user 42% stellar conduct damage bonus. Now, let us talk about Yumemizuki. The main thing to know is that after pressing her elemental skill, she will fly and deals continuous animo damage on the field. However, her primary damage comes from her swirl reactions, which occur when animo meets pyro, hydro, electro, or cryo. The issue is that base numbers in swirl damage formula are very low, so her personal damage can't carrying your team. For her burst, she deploys snacks on the field that you must pick up to heal your entire team, which also triggers some anemo damage for additional swirls. She got 2 major buffs in patch Luna 8. First, her raw anemo damage is increased. Though her base anemo damage is so low, this buff does not change that much. Second, Mizuki's buff now allows her to share an elemental mastery bonus with the whole team, whereas before Luna 8, that bonus was strictly for herself. The higher her elemental mastery, the stronger her swirl damage and healing will be. However, Mizuki's main problem is that she occupies on-field time. Usually, your on-field character needs to be the highest damage contributor, which makes it hard for her to compete even with 4-star anemo units. For example, a character like Aoife is built with full elemental mastery and possesses a passive that buffs the entire team's electro charge or lunar charge damage, meaning he's not just rely on high EM to play with swirl damage. Alternatively, if you just want a quick team-wide elemental mastery buffer, Sucrose is much more straightforward. You just press her skill to instantly grant over 200 elemental mastery to the whole team. The good things about Mizuki is her Anemo element, allowing her to run 4 pieces Viridescent Veneerer to shred enemy elemental resistance by 40%, which is a massive team benefit. For her artifacts, run full elemental mastery on your Sands, Goblet, and Circlet. Mizuki's best constellations are her C2 and C6. Her C2 ensures that during her elemental skill duration, she shreds enemy Pyro, Hydro, Electro, and Cryo resistance by 20%, while simultaneously granting Atomage bonus for those elements to the whole team. Her signature weapon provides the highest EM bonus in the game, but if you do not have it, just use any high EM weapon you have. Looking ahead, it seems likely that Mizuki will receive further buffs during the Snezhnaya arc about Cryo swirl mechanics. Regardless of her kit, constellations, or artifact, Mizuki is a sweet and warmful character. The fact she is a psychotherapist yokai with maid outfit. Quick look at Diona and Beidou, as their buffs are simple and direct. Diona's buff is tied to her C6. Previously, her C6 granted 200 elemental mastery to active characters inside her ultimate area. Now that 200 elemental mastery remains, but it comes with an additional 40% stellar conduct damage buff. Beidou's buff is also at C6. Enemies hit by Beidou's burst will now suffer a 15% reduction in both cryo and electro resistance. At the same time, it grants 200 elemental mastery buff to your active character. Furthermore, there is a QOL adjustment to Beidou's elemental skill, making her parry counterattacks more easier to control. That's our quick summary of all the characters' buffs in Patch Luna 8. I hope this helps you to prepare. Thank you for watching, and happy grinding, travelers!